urgency of the last chapters. I feel quite certain that I would be writing about matters of faith had I never gotten sick. The obsession is everywhere in my earlier work. But I also suspect that without the impetus of serious illness, my work would not have taken the particular form that it has. It seemed dishonest to avoid this dynamic. When my life broke open 7 years ago, I knew very well that I believed in something. Exactly what I believed, however, was considerably less clear. So I set out to answer that question, though I have come to realize that the real question, the real difficulty, is how, not what. How do you answer that burn of being? What might it mean for your life, and for your death, to acknowledge that insistent, persistent ghost? My bright abyss. My God, my bright abyss, into which all my longing will not go. Once more I come to the edge of all I know, and believing nothing, believe in this. And there the poem ends, or fails rather, for in the several years since I first wrote that stanza, I have been trying to feel my way, to will my way into its ending. Poems in general are not especially susceptible to the will, but this one, for obvious reasons, has proved particularly intractable. As if it weren't hard enough to articulate one's belief, I seem to have wanted to distill it into a single stanza. Still, that is the way I have usually known my own mind, feeling through the sounds of words to the forms they make, and through the forms they make to the forms of life that are beyond them. And I have always believed in that beyond, even during the long years when I would not acknowledge God. I have expected something similar here. I have wanted some image to open for me, to both solidify my wavering faith and ramify beyond it, to say more than I can say. In truth, though, what I crave at this point in my life is to speak more clearly what it is that I believe. It is not that I am tired of poetic truth, or that I feel it to be somehow weaker or less true than reason. The opposite is the case. Inspiration is to thought what grace is to faith. Intrusive, transcendent, transformative, but also evanescent and, all too often, anomalous. A poem can leave its maker at once more deeply seized by existence and in a profound way alienated from it, for as the act of making ends, as the world that seemed to overbrim its boundaries becomes once more merely the world, it can be very difficult to retain any faith in that original moment of inspiration at all. The memory of that momentary blaze, in fact, and the art that issued from it, can become a reproach to the fireless life in which you find yourself most of the time. Grace is no different. Artistic inspiration is sometimes an act of grace, though by no means always. To experience grace is one thing. To integrate it into your life is quite another. What I crave now is that integration, some speech that is true to the transcendent nature of grace, yet adequate to the hard reality in which daily faith operates. I crave, I suppose, the poetry and the prose of knowing. When I was young, 12 years old or so, I had an experience one morning in church. I put the word in quotes because, though the culture in which I was raised possessed definite language to explain what happened to me, I was filled with the Holy Spirit, I was saved, I no longer find that language accurate or helpful when thinking about how God manifests himself, or herself, or Godself, or whatever hopeless, reflexive pronoun you want to use, in reality and individual lives. Also, I don't really remember the event. I remember that it happened, but it's in the half-wakeful, sedated way a man remembers a minor surgery. I remember being the subject of much adult awe and approbation, but even then the child those adults described, weeping and shaking and curled up tight in the church basement,